Alright, so this video got this message from somebody, and I'm going to read the message, I'm going to respond to it, just being honest and real about how I feel after reading this message. I've been following you for many, many years. I enjoy philosophies and respect the martial arts in general. As of recently, I've found myself upset with your views of mixing up lineage and culture blending. I've been training in a multitude of Chinese, Japanese, and Korean martial arts my entire life, mainly focused, train, and teach on the Korean arts, as that's where my passion is with the Olympic sport, just so you know my background a bit and know where I'm coming from. I do agree with you on many of your comments about Jake Mace. However, your arguments about culture blending and white privilege really upset me, both as a person and as a martial artist. I am a white man, but that does not define me as a martial artist. I have trained with many different cultures through my journey in Taekwondo, and no one color or race claims superiority in any art or the sport. We grow as a community both in training for health and the warrior spirit. I feel you are limiting your mind and adopting a victim mindset by claiming white privilege. If anyone falsely claims rights in the martial arts world, that is why we had the martial challenge. If that challenged person refuses to accept, then they lose face and all credibility with the martial community. Please be open-minded and see that other people practicing other cultures' art is the highest form of flattering. Please feel free to use any of this context in your vlog. I know you are a strong person both internally and externally. There will always be frauds that will try to capitalize on our hard work. If we rant about them, we are giving them recognition, which only fuels their cause. I promise you that your rant has only given more traffic to Jake's channel. Let's leave the frauds in the dust and they will be forgotten in time. However, our teachings will live on within the students and teachers we build, showing the truth of the arts and warrior spirit. With kind regards. Alright, so, there you have it. He's sharing his perspective as a white man. Well, he says he doesn't want to be limited by that, but, he said that he's white. So, I think it's going to be difficult, to gain an understanding from where I'm coming from, because, like I stated, I feel that a white person in America will never understand how it feels to be a minority in America. There's a reason why there's racism here. The history can't be erased. The history is what happened. There was such a thing as slavery. There was Martin Luther King Jr. having to fight for, equal rights and to fight against the law being corrupted. There was a time where there's black bathrooms and white bathrooms. There was a Malcolm X that got assassinated. There was a Martin Luther King Jr. that got assassinated. Racism does exist, still to this day, and it's just as bad, if not worse, than how it was in the past. And only a minority can truly understand this, because we are the ones that go through it, and I think no Caucasian person can truly understand, unless maybe, say a Caucasian person is, say they're homosexual, then they go through discrimination when it comes to that part, then they might understand, because they could draw the correlation in how there's difference in treatment. And maybe sometimes white women might understand a little bit when they get sexually harassed and they feel like their rights are being violated. When they feel like they're being violated, they could try to relate that experience to how a minority could feel. And as I stated in my other videos, I didn't create racism. I didn't create division. I wish I could say that I was just a human being and have people understand where I'm coming from. But we live in a divisive world. We live in a world of language. I didn't create language. I'm just using the language that was created before I was even born. It wasn't up to me to say that I'm Chinese or American, and that this person's black and that person's Hispanic. I mean, I didn't create any of this. I'm just trying to understand the world of which we're living in. And in the context of the martial arts, you know, is the martial arts, can it bring people together? Can it get people to understand other races and cultures? Potentially, you know, if a Caucasian person falls in love with the martial arts and with the Asian cultures, then he could start to appreciate the Asian cultures and then stick up for the Asian cultures. You know, because there is a lot of discrimination going on against Asians. There is a lot of racism going against Asians. So if a Caucasian person learns to appreciate the Asian arts, then he might stick up for the Asian person. You know, and that is appreciated. You know, and but I really think this person is upset at what I have to say simply because there's no way he can understand where I'm coming from. Because fact of the matter is, he is not Asian, living in America. And he will never know how it's like. You know, and I'm just being honest with how I feel and what's going on, and only a person that's in my position can really understand. Or maybe another group, minority group, that's been through it. You know, like the African Americans might understand the pains that, you know, the Chinese people went through from the rape of Nanking. You know, and minorities might understand how Japan feels, you know, after the atomic bomb. You know, these are tough topics to talk about, and things that I feel needs to be expressed, and at the same time, I'm trying to get away from it. Like, I don't want to dwell too much on it and keep going with it, because this stuff doesn't make me feel good. But at the same time, I feel that it is necessary that I say something. But you know, he said he's been training in a multitude of arts, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. I think there can be a conflict of interest there. Not just can be, but it is a conflict of interest there. You know, like I stated, I didn't create these different countries. These countries are there. So there is a difference between China, Japan, and Korea. They're separate countries. Now, wouldn't it be nice if they were all one country and there wasn't such a thing as separation? Wouldn't it be nice? Would it be nice if it was just one world, one culture? Would it be nice if it was just the West and then the East and that's it? There's no such thing as Japan, India, Korea, and China, but it was just one. It would be nice, but that's not the world that we live in. So the Chinese have a separate language, the Japanese have a separate language, the Koreans have a separate language. Chinese have their martial arts, Japanese have their martial arts, Korean has their martial arts. Now, as a white person going into these cultures and learning from here, learning from there, and learning from there, that is exactly why a lot of the traditional Chinese martial artists would not want to teach the white man, not because of racism, but simply because of lack of loyalty. Because the loyalty is not in their blood. The loyalty could just flip at any moment. There's nothing that is giving them, drawing them toward their heart towards staying loyal to any art. So if you have this white person that is going to learn from a Chinese martial arts master one day, and then a couple days or weeks or even years later he wants to learn from a Korean master, and then after that go to a Japanese master, that becomes highly discouraged within the traditional martial arts community. And even in a business, not even talking about martial arts and tradition, but just business and your loyalty towards a business. You know, you think, you know, if you work for Apple for a few years and then all of a sudden you want to quit and then now you want to work for Samsung, you think Apple's going to be too happy about that? You think they're going to be happy about that? You know, or the basketball association, you think, you know, the Cavaliers were happy when LeBron James left them to go to Miami Heat, and LeBron James leaves Miami Heat to go back to Cavaliers? You think Miami Heat was happy about that? It's like the loyalty and commitment in people, it's not there. Like, and when you're not a part of these cultures, when you are not actually Chinese, when you're not actually Korean, when you're not actually Japanese, when you have none of that, no traces of those in your blood, and then you go to these cultures to learn, the proper way to do it is to choose one. Or not even to choose, but they need to accept you. And you need to prove to them your loyalty and commitment, that you will be loyal to their ways and represent their country, represent their culture, represent their people. I mean, look at the Olympics. I mean, you can't enter the Olympics for 3 different countries. You can only represent one country. You're either representing USA, or you're representing China, or you're representing Japan, or you're representing Korea. You can't represent all countries and say that we're all one. That's a nice idealistic mentality, that we are all one, and spiritually speaking, like, essentially we are, but we live in a world that is divided by language, divided by country, divided by race. And if we are going to reap the benefits of using these labels and say that, hey, you know, I practice Taekwondo, hey, I practice karate, hey, I practice Kung Fu. If we're going to use these labels, then let's earn the right to use them, and in addition, let's show our loyalty towards these labels. But if you believe in, I am just a human being, and I do not agree with all these divisions, okay, then don't even claim the martial arts. Don't even tell people that you practice martial arts. You can still practice, but don't claim anything. Or if you want to claim something, then claim, I practice human being martial arts. I don't practice Chinese martial arts. I don't practice Taekwondo. I don't practice karate. I don't practice jiu-jitsu. I practice human being martial arts, which is all-inclusive for everybody. But no, people want to reap the benefits of certain cultures, certain arts that derive from certain countries. They want to take that, use that to flatter themselves or impress the people around them, but then they still want to claim oneness, that there shouldn't be division, that we are all one people. And that to me is not right. You know, it's like you have to, if you are not a part of one of these cultures, then you need to prove loyalty towards one and stick to it. Because like for me, I can't deny to anybody that I'm not Chinese, because it's all everywhere I go, my race goes with me. I can't change that. I can't, wake up and be like, all right, I want to be black today, so let me put on a black mask. Oh, I want to be Korean today, so let me put on a Korean mask. Oh, I want to be, Caucasian today, so let me put on Caucasian mask. It's like my race goes with me everywhere I go. It is forced loyalty because that's who I am. But when you are not a part of these cultures, and then you get to pick and choose which one that you want to represent, and then say that, hey, we're all one, that right there, there's no comparison. There's no way you could understand as what I'm talking about. There's no way a white person could understand what a minority goes through in America. A person that's black cannot change the fact that he's black. A person that's Chinese cannot change the fact that he's Chinese. A person that's Hispanic cannot change the fact that he's Hispanic. But when you are not of any of these races, one day you put on a shirt promoting Kung Fu. Another day you put on a shirt promoting Taekwondo. Next day you put on a shirt promoting Aikido. Next day you put on a shirt promoting Jiu-Jitsu. It's like you can pick and choose what you want to represent. And you can never understand when something is you have no choice. You weren't even allowed to make a choice. You were born in this culture. And you have no choice. And no matter what you do in your life, good or bad, you're representing this culture because that's how you were born. So, being a white person, practicing the martial arts and learning from the Chinese, learning from the Japanese, learning from the Koreans, okay, that's fine. But really, I say the proper way to do it is to represent yourself and your name. Craig, this is Craig's martial arts. And I've been inspired by all these different martial arts all over the world. And this is my expression. My name's Craig, and this is Craig's martial art. I say that that's the proper way to do it. But when you say, hey, I learned from, I practice Chinese martial arts, I practice Japanese martial arts, and I practice Korean martial arts, but Korean is the one that I am currently passionate about, then that is like spitting in the face of the Japanese and the Chinese, because you're basically taking from them what you wanted and then benefiting everything that they taught you. You're benefiting the Korean community by representing Korea now. You're not representing the Chinese, you're not representing the Japanese, you're representing Korea now. Even though that you've learned something from the Chinese and you learned something from the Japanese. And that to me is disloyalty, non-commitment. To me it's similar to like, hey, I got 3 wives. One's a Chinese wife, one's a Japanese wife, one's a Korean wife. Great concept. I mean, I used to think like that too. But I also learned that when you find the right person, you don't need three. All you need is one. And when you have three wives, how do you think all three of them feel about each other? They're not going to feel good. There's a reason why America only promotes monogamy and not polygamy. You know, that loyalty and that commitment towards one is important in the martial arts. And a white person has a hard time understanding that because they were not born into any of these cultures. They have the luxury to pick and choose what they want to represent. But as a Chinese person, I don't have that luxury. I wasn't able to pick and choose my race. I was born this way. So, regardless of if the Chinese martial arts is good or bad, I'm going to have to represent the Chinese martial arts to the best of my ability. Because that's who I am. But as a white person, how could you understand that? You have the luxury to pick and choose. And what I'm saying is, if I don't have the luxury to pick and choose, then these people that are not born into these cultures shouldn't have that either. And in a way, it's similar to how the countries are governed. You can't just pick and choose wherever you want to live just because. I mean, you need to get permission from each country. You can't just all of a sudden, somebody from China just can't all of a sudden be like, oh, I want to be an American now. Well, you need to get their permission. You know what I mean? Like, that essentially is something that I feel that people need to think about. You know, and he also mentioned says, please be open-minded and see that other people practicing other cultures' art is the highest form of flattery. Not necessarily. Not if there's mockery. So, an example, Bruce Lee comes out, great martial artist, representing Kung Fu, and all of a sudden they come out this thing called Kung Fu fighting. Everybody's Kung Fu fighting. And then everybody's laughing at the Chinese people. That, to me, is not flattering. That's disrespectful. I watched the videos myself. I thought it was really funny myself, but there's a video out there of Martin Lawrence. You know, he's not Japanese, obviously, but he's basically poking fun at the Japanese martial arts. They call him Dragonfly. You can watch it yourself. Hilarious. But is that flattery? Well, it could be seen as extremely disrespectful from a Japanese person. Another video out there with Jim Carrey mimicking the karate once again, and he's, you know, in living color. He's poking fun at the martial arts. Is that flattery? If a Japanese person watches that, they could be highly offensive. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is that representing real ninjutsu? Is that flattery? No, that could be highly offensive to a real ninjutsu. And another thing is any of this money going back to these countries? More than likely, no. Is Martin Lawrence giving money back to the Japanese for making fun of their arts? No. Is Jim Carrey giving money back to the Japanese for making fun of their arts? No. Is, you know, when people are taking from these other countries and claiming that they own this or they represent this, that's not necessarily flattery. It could be seen as theft. theft of intellectual property, theft of creative property, theft of art. You know, so say, you know, somebody's got music that he made on YouTube, and then somebody takes the music, starts making money from the music, but then he doesn't give any money to the person that made it, but he keeps the money for himself. Is that flattery? No, that's theft. So in this context, if you're learning from the Chinese, you learn from the Japanese, and you learn from the Koreans because you have that right or that privilege because of white privilege, then now what, like, are the Chinese and the Japanese are supposed to be flattered that you are going to share all the techniques that you learn from them with the Koreans and then represent Korea now? Is that flattery? That's actually could be considered like being a traitor. You know, so it's not necessarily flattery. You know, like say you learn, you go to Apple and then you learn what you need to learn, and then you take that and then you go to Samsung and you give them all the secrets of Apple. Is that flattery? Like that's like one of the worst things that you could do against a company. It's like, when is it flattery and when is it using people and cultures for your own benefit? You know, I mean, I think it's just hard for people to understand that. You know, unless you are born as a minority and then you go through it. And then you see that as a minority, you need to protect your culture, protect your art. Just like a business needs to protect their secrets. They need to protect what is for them. There's something that's for them, and then there's something for outsiders. There's something inside that needs to be protected. So when I bring it back to the context of relationships, like there's something special inside that you're only supposed to share with a special someone, not with just the whole world. Then you lose respect. So a woman that sleeps around with a bunch of different men, that's not seen as a positive thing. And it shouldn't be. You know, because there's a point where there's something that's not for everybody. So when it comes to art, it's the same thing. Only the right people deserve to be a part of this group that's representing this art. And people that are disloyal, people that are not committed, people that just want to jump from one school to another school, representing China today, tomorrow they're representing Japan, day after that they're representing Korea. I mean, that is the exact reason why the traditional Chinese martial artists didn't want Bruce Lee to teach Westerners, because they just don't get it. And it's hard for them to get it. You know, and another thing that if you look into history, I didn't write this history, but I learned about it. And it's like the Japanese did the rape of Nanking, they bullied the Chinese. The Europeans came to America, they took out the Native Americans. Very similar. Europeans coming to take out the Native Americans. Japanese going in to try to take out the Chinese. The Native Americans and the Chinese are in the same boat. They're the ones being bullied. Only they can understand what it's like to be in that position. And these are the people that have the art. This art that has this balance of peace and harmony that ends up being where they're being brutalized, murdered, raped. Only a woman will understand what it's like to be a woman when she's being raped or she's being beaten on by a man. So then the Europeans come in, take out the Native Americans, and then now they bring over black slaves. So then now they used African Americans as slaves. Japanese go ahead and bomb Pearl Harbor. So the Japanese tried to bully a bigger bully, America, which is the biggest superpower in the world. You don't do that. Because Japan is a bully too, but they're not as big of a bully as America. America comes back, atom bombs. Maybe about 4 years later, 2 atom bombs. 1945 to Japan, killing over 200,000 people. Now you got a bigger bully calming down the smaller bully, but they're both still bullies. So America and Japan as countries are representing people that are bullying other countries. And then there's videos out there talking about Japan bullying Korea, raping their women and things of that nature. So America and Japan, their countries are representing over-aggressiveness. And it's even showing in their martial arts. America, MMA and boxing and football. Japan has that karate, very hard and stiff. The Chinese martial arts is more balanced, more at peace. So, how can the Chinese or the Native Americans, how could they, or even the blacks, how could they just share everything that they know, give it to the bullies, so then they can market, make money off of it, and then eliminate the people that they wanted to murder and kill to begin with? So why would the Chinese people teach the Japanese people martial arts so they could get better at dominating their entire country and killing their people? No, if you're Chinese, you do not teach the people that are bullying you how to be better at bullying you. So, you know, so if you're a white person and you're not a bully, but you want to learn the Chinese martial arts, you want to learn the Korean martial arts, if you want to learn the Japanese martial arts, then they'll probably be really willing to teach you, because they're like, you know what? Japan, they even said in the video, Japan and America are friends now. So the smaller bullies submitted to the bigger bully, so then now 2 bullies are stronger than 1 bully. So then Japan feels like, well, we can't bully America, so we might as well take them onto our side, so then, hey, you know, but we're going to have beef with China. So basically these divisions, I did not create, but these divisions are the reasons why the martial arts are divided as well. And if you're a white person and you want to represent the martial arts, then you got to pick which country that you're going to represent. You can't just go and say that I'm representing all 3 just because. Like that's, when it comes down to it, the person, why would they even want to teach you? Because you don't have any commitment. You don't have any loyalty. Not only is the culture not in your blood, but you're not even giving a true word of loyalty towards their country to represent. So why would they want to teach you? It's not about racism, but it's about loyalty. So if somebody's born Chinese, they can't change that. So the loyalty is just, it's inbuilt. But if you're not born of that culture, you need to prove that you will be loyal to that culture, to represent that culture to the fullest. And if you show any signs of disloyalty, that is spitting in the face of that culture that has accepted you to become a part of them. I mean, that's the way that I see it. The more that I understand about history, the deeper it makes these teachings. Because this is not something that I just came up out of the blue with. These things really did happen. I didn't make these happen. The rape of Nanking happened. Pearl Harbor happened. The Holocaust happened. Slavery, black slavery happened. Whatever the Europeans did to the Native Americans happened. So it's more about understanding what happened back then, in which to understand why we have all these divisions currently, and then also why it's so important to be representing what you're supposed to represent properly. A true understanding. After the Japanese did what they did to the Chinese in the rape of Nanking, why would the Chinese go and learn martial arts from the Japanese when they have their own martial arts and their own culture to represent? And not only that, but they didn't even want to apologize, and they didn't even want to admit to what happened. And then as a white person that has nothing to do with any of this, and then they see this, oh, I'll learn from the Japanese, I'll learn from the Chinese. Well, actually, I'll learn from the Chinese as a white person because I'm not Japanese. They'll accept me to learn from them because I'm not Japanese, because they don't hate me because I'm white. But what I'll do is I'll learn from them, and then I'll give back to you, Japanese, the Japan, so then you can reap the benefits of what they know. So basically, you're basically going in there as a spy to take what they want to give to the Japanese, and that is exactly why the martial arts is protected and not just taught to anybody. And if you look at it right now with the military in current times, that's how it's like. You know, you can't go from one country, learn the military secrets, and then share it with another country thinking that you're not doing anything wrong. And it's the same thing in relationships. A woman's not going to give you her heart and love you to the fullest if she knows that you're just going to go ahead and sleep around with somebody else. A martial art teacher, a master, is not going to show you the true essence of his art if he knows that you're not going to be loyal to represent his art. A company is not going to show you everything that they know or everything that the company's built upon when they know that you're just going to leave in a few days or a few weeks or a few months or a few years to just go off with everything that you learned from them in which to turn around and put them out of business. It's a conflict of interest. And I don't think that is unreasonable to understand. Even as a police officer in the past, I couldn't work for 4 different police officers, 4 different police departments. I can only work for one police department and that's it. And when you're talking about an entire culture of martial arts that's been built over thousands of years, how could you tell me that you don't even have enough time in your life to practice and learn every single martial art that China has to offer or Chinese people have to share? But then you're going to go ahead and go learn from the Japanese and then learn from the Koreans and then learn from the Thai, learn from just the whole world, but then you still want to reap the benefits of claiming each culture, each art. If you're going to learn from the world, then don't call it Japanese martial arts. Don't call it Korean martial arts. Don't call it Chinese martial arts. Call it what it is. Call it world martial arts. Call it human being martial arts. Call it YouTube martial arts. But don't label it of that culture, because you're not representing that culture. You have no loyalty to that culture, and you are not born into that culture. You are not representing that culture and its people. That's like somebody, hey, I work for Microsoft, I work from Samsung, I work for Nokia, I work for Apple. Like, you could really work for all these companies. You work for Amazon, you work for Google, you work for Facebook. So you want to reap the benefits to just brag about all these different companies that you work for. But what's the truth? How could you possibly represent each single company? Because when you work full-time, that's already 40 hours in a week. And there's only 24 hours in a day. And you need to sleep. So there's only 16 hours left in the day. How can you possibly work and represent all these different companies? You can't. You only have so much time. So, are you representing Google? Are you representing Facebook? Are you representing Apple? Are you representing Samsung? Which company are you actually representing? Pick one. And that's how the martial arts is. There's a lot of different martial arts there to choose from. As a white person, you have the luxury to choose whichever one that you want to represent. But it doesn't give you the luxury to just try to claim all of them just because. But even so, to properly represent, you need to meet a master of that art from that culture that accepts you as a disciple. That's not just short term, but for your whole life to represent that culture and its people. and it's art with loyalty.